Hi everyone. Good morning everyone. Welcome to the sixth session of the National Productivity Webinar Series. I am Jerome Papa Lucas of the National Wages and Productivity Commission. And co-moderating this session is another Jerome Yanson of the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board, Central Luzon, who will be joining in later. As background, the National Productivity Conference is a platform for discussing developments and issues on the country's productivity and competitiveness. In the past, we have been conducting this conference face-to-face, but this year, we are doing it online via Zoom and Facebook Live, and replays can be watched on YouTube. It is in compliance with the health and containment measures because of the pandemic. It is also because of the pandemic that we decided to adopt as our theme, driving productivity in the better normal. We have lined up webinars every Thursday starting September 3 to November 5. Moving forward, the remaining topics in this series are on business responses to the new normal, such as automation, business reconfiguration, and employee engagement. Before I introduce our speaker for this morning, just a few preliminaries. We will turn your videos off and keep your audios on mute while the session is ongoing to minimize interruptions. We encourage everyone to answer the poll questions that will be flashed on your screens. Q&A and chat boxes are available at the bottom of your screens for your questions, comments, and feedbacks. Please make sure that you complete the evaluation form after the session to get your certificate of participation. Are you guys ready for our first poll question? Okay. For our first poll question, can you pull up? Okay. We asked, what data are the most frequently used by your company? Are these data on operating or production cost, customer data, employee or HR data, sales or revenues, profits, inventory, and payroll? Or do you have other data? Please don't forget to click the submit button. Okay. What data are the most frequently used by your company? This is a multiple response question. Okay. Um, okay, let's move on to our second poll question. Where do you get the data often used by your company? Do you get it from your financial statements, from sales data, from private industry or market surveys, from government statistics, or from other sources? You may choose more than one answer. Where do you get the data often used by your company? From financial statements, from sales data, from private industry or market surveys, from government statistics, or from other sources? Okay, on to our third poll question, please. What are these data used for? Do you use it for your sales and marketing, for product development or market study? Do you use it for operational improvement, for your recruitment, or for other purposes? Again, what are these data used for? Do you use it for your sales or marketing, for product development or market study, operational improvement, recruitment, or for other purposes? Okay, for our fourth poll question, what is the stage of your data decision making? Are you at the stage where you do reporting and using Excel based on business performance data? Or do you use dashboards which answers, where are we today? How to win tomorrow? Or do you have predictions of best or worst case and include your company data, market data, and detailed competitor data? Or do you use artificial intelligence? This means that your business drives itself like Tesla's car using internal and external data to navigate and achieve optimal business results. Okay, for our last poll question, we want to know how mature are your people? Do you have really good Excel experts? Do you have a data science team but no one knows what they do? Or do you have a data science team and they have earned saved millions? Or your business is led by a senior management who know data science? Okay, thank you very much for answering our poll questions. We will show the results after the presentation of our resource person. Now, let me introduce our renowned speaker for this morning. Our speaker is an associate professor of the National University of Singapore, School of Computing. He is also the director of NUS Fintech Lab and co-director of Crystal Center, a fintech think tank that prepares candidates with skill sets in innovative thinking and data-driven decision-making. He is the author of the Amazon bestseller, Actionable Intelligence, a guide to delivering business results with big data fast, published in 2014 by Wiley, New York. He has an MBA from Cornell University and a bachelor's degree in Electrical and Computer Systems Engineering from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Before joining NUS, he worked at Estee Lauder and Accenture. His mission is to help businesses, governments, and people succeed with actionable intelligence. To present the actionable intelligence results amid uncertainty, it is truly a privilege to have with us this morning, all the way from Singapore, Professor Keith Carter. Good morning, Professor Keith.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for letting me join and share some thoughts with you today. I'm really proud of what I got to hear during the startup of this, the commercial and everything about the national productivity. There's so many resources available to you. Excellent. And I'm just honored to be here and share a bit with you about actionable intelligence and data-driven decision-making. Thank you also for filling out the polls. Really interesting results. Look forward to talking through those later on today. Can I just check, can you see my presentation here?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
We can see your presentation, sir.
Hey, everyone. So I'm from the National University of Singapore, the Fintech Lab. And I wanted to share with you that we're all made up of data, first of all. And data that you see on the screen right now, some of the bigger words mean more to me, but the small words also make up, who's this Keith Carter person? Why is he telling us and sharing with us about data today? So I'd like for you to take a look at this, and maybe there's some things that we can connect on and be having commonality, or maybe you're curious about. Today, I want you to take away a few things, though. Number one is that data and making decisions has become, of course, not just critical, but you'll see some great examples today. In addition, there are three key words that we want you to learn and take away from this as well, which are know, decide, and act. You see, if I'm going to share some new information with you, and it's great if that you're here, first of all, and that you listen, but we really love for you to take this back to your office, to your friends and more, and be able to talk with them about, hey, this is the new way we could do things. Let's go ahead, let's run forward. These words are so important that it would be great if you could say them with us this morning. Know, decide, and act. So I'm going to count to three, and we'll say them all together. I know this is Zoom, it's really hard to hear each other. If everyone could come off mute real quick here, if everyone could come off mute, all the panelists that are going to say this as well. And
Dali, ready na kayo.
Fantastic. Let's get ready to say together on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. No.
Decide.
All right. And Zoom makes that always very interesting. Please, everyone, go back on mute. It makes it very interesting because maybe over the time it'll get better, but it's so important. And we'll certainly be saying this again. So the second phrase that I'd like for you to know is actionable intelligence. This is about having the right information in the right person's hands at the right time in order to improve outcomes. You see, we don't leave home without this device because we want to see, hey, is there an emergency? Well, how should I respond? And of course, having this, we can see that Or, oh, I got a message from mom or my friend, let me respond. We would more likely leave our wallet at home than leave our phone these days. So actionable intelligence, key, critical. Data-driven decision making is what we all always wanted, especially the boss. He's always coming out, where's this? My customer asked that, what happened? Or government, how are our constituents doing? What do we need to support them with? Do you notice most of the time we start with questions? And so as we go through this today, we're going to share with you why it's important, what it is, and how do we get there. But I'd like for you to get inspired first. Let's take a look at why it's important. So let's go. First of all, companies started to look at data in a new way and to build knowledge economies, moving from manufacturing to service, service now to knowledge. And it shows up in the stock market in a big way. The market cap, the value of the companies, back in 2001, the top 5 largest companies in the world were General Electric, Exxon, traditional companies, Walmart, that moved goods, sold them, created them, etc. But just 15 years later, the top 5 market cap companies were data creation companies, data using companies, data driven companies. Apple, Alphabet, which is Google, Microsoft, and more. And what had amazed us is that the jobs, these companies were hiring for new people, creating new roles, etc. There was great excitement in the market. But then, just a few years later, in September, when we look at September 2020, these companies, in spite of COVID-19, in spite of the challenges, had almost tripled in value. Microsoft went to 1.5 trillion from 500 billion just 4 years earlier. Apple went to 1.8 trillion and 2 trillion. It's touched it and came back a bit. Amazon and Alphabet. But something interesting also happened. In place number 5, a new company emerged, and also very much data driven. Can anyone guess what then the company would have been that came into the top 5 spot here? Jerome, I believe you have a poll for us to get a sense as to how people might guess which of these companies ended up on the top 5 here in market cap. All right, great. We're seeing some good votes here. This is good, okay. A lot of people are voting in. There's a lot of excitement around Zoom. Well, yes, we're all on that right now, aren't we? And great excitement around Amazon. Tesla's getting a few less votes than I expected. Okay, interesting. Good. All right, Jerome, let's go ahead and wrap up the poll. And why don't we also share the results this time? Let's see how things were. What did people guess? You can share that. This is what most people guess. So we want to share what the actual is. Alibaba. The Alibaba Group, for those of you who got that right, congrats. They got into this and at 744 billion, beating out Facebook. Now, of course, Chinese companies have been in the top 5 market cap before. PetroChina, ICBC, those were traditional companies. And here we see a data-driven company from China reaching into the top 5 as well. Amazing and great to see how fast that occurred. So let's go further. How did they do this? Why is it so important? Because they were able to figure out that when is the customer's time of need? If I can present a timely and relevant offer, they're much more likely to respond, to buy my product. And if I can predict when I need to have supply, when I need to have manufacturing, when I need to have people, all these pieces here started to build in, and they leverage up on that so that it could be Google providing you with the right search results, or Google Maps telling you when your Grab is going to arrive, or of course, looking at others like Alibaba and Amazon. Well, what would you like to buy next? These timely and relevant offers increased our activity and our engagement and our satisfaction. And the result was higher valuations than ever. I share the positive side, but let me go to the negative side. 26% of the Fortune 500 fell off the list over a 10-year period, according to Deloitte. And 1 in 3 companies will be delisted. We're seeing a lot of that happen in Singapore and around the world. And up until 2021, we will see this and beyond. And more than 50% of the S&P 500 are due to be replaced by 2026. If companies don't change and get to data-driven, they're at risk of not being around, or at least significantly shrinking their business. So governments have gotten behind this. Many set up artificial intelligence strategies, data-driven strategies to look at what opportunities there were to make a difference in their constituents' lives. For example, in Jakarta, plagued by floods, challenged with the way people can move around the city, began to analyze that data as well with historical data and also new sensor data, blending in IoT. And then in Queensland, in Australia, they implemented a patient admission prediction so that they could perhaps optimize the way that their beds were used, the way sicknesses were taken care of. Good thing these were done a couple of years ago, because now, as we see with COVID-19, Queensland can take advantage of these things during what's a health crisis around the world. And Chicago, the city of Chicago, also built an algorithm to try to predict which restaurants would violate the health codes, also critical during COVID-19. It really does pay to think about what questions that we need to answer and then go about answering them, so that when the crisis comes, you're prepared. In schools, I worked with Kaplan, and they're an international organization that trains people around the world, gets them through the degree programs as well. And Chris Harris, who was the executive dean of Kaplan Singapore, and I worked closely looking at 82 million data points to see where students were struggling. This isn't just for businesses. This is also for education. And Kaplan isn't alone. Purdue University, NYIT, and others all use data to see how to improve student success, to identify opportunities for education to get even better. Everything starts with great questions. We had perhaps which students might suffer. Perhaps the question that is on your mind is in terms of health and how do we make it more efficient and safer. Security, faster responses, and of course, more fair. What can we do about food, finances, and more? You need great data in order to get to these. Then there's additional questions, like we heard in the walkthrough of National Productivity Organization here. What products and services are the most profitable for your business? What's the best case outcome for your forecast in terms of sales and inventory? Which customers really can deliver the most and are most valuable to you? But more importantly, how do you provide the best and really answer their questions at their time of need? Your pricing, how does it compare to your competitors? And are you ready to make fast adjustments to win? And more. These are the types of questions that typically enter our mind. And I want you to notice that some of them are forward-looking questions. What's the best outcome? What could happen? And then it's our responsibility to also analyze what did happen. Did we achieve what we had projected? This type of feedback loop is critical in data-driven decision-making. Checking on how we perform is as important as perform. So now that you know why this is there and some of the things that organizations around the world are doing, let's take a look at what it is. So first of all, I want you to consider, and a very important thing, please tell your chief financial officers this critical point. This is not the time to fire people. Artificial intelligence, data-driven decision-making, automation are not tools to let people go. Instead, they're opportunities to be a force multiplier, to improve the way that you do business. This is critical. So let's look at AI in use. First of all, we'll take a look at Excel versus Power BI and how you can analyze data in that. We'll go into setting calendar appointments and how that can be so much faster. You'll actually get to try out creating a PowerPoint from Excel. I wish I could see your faces and ask you, how many of you take lots of Excel spreadsheets and generate monthly and quarterly PowerPoints? If you could raise your hands, that would be great. I'd love to be there with you, right? But a lot of people are raising their hand. Great, thank you so much. Wow. And so this is key. We can really get to automation here and reduce our work. And then finally, how can we delight our customers with mass personalization? This is a traditional spreadsheet, right? Wow, you're presented with this, the data's just come out of the system. What can you tell me? I'm sure the first thing you will notice is maybe Vietnam is there, there's balances, but could you tell me which country has the most balance? What would it take to figure out the difference between male and female? Who is our strongest customer, white collar or blue collar? These are all questions that we could ask about the data. And it could be a lot of data, 82 million rows. Can Excel handle that? No, and in Britain, they found this out. This was in the news yesterday. I had to add it in to today's presentation. Can you believe this? COVID-19 era, 16,000 cases were missed. Why? Because Excel has a maximum. At the government level, Excel couldn't provide the insight about COVID-19. What more critical mistake could you have? Excel is unfortunately the best used business intelligence tool in the world. I hope if there's one action you take after know, decide, and act is please move away from Excel, especially if you're serious about data-driven decision making. It's great. Listen, it's important to start with. You know, it helps you model things quickly. There's no protection. It doesn't warn you when something's wrong. And this is what happens here. Serious, even government level issues. So let's look at Excel versus Power BI. So this was Excel. This is Power BI. Wow, we can see which part of the country business is going on in. I can see which region is more important now. I can actually see the age and take a look at maybe there's an outlier here. Why does this customer have so much more? And what's interesting is that when all you need to do is load your data into Power BI and these insights come out automatically. You don't have to hire a data scientist to create these charts. Power BI has become your data scientist. So listen, I'm at the university, right? I warn my students, because I teach intelligent systems, say, listen, the market's changing all the time. Data science is becoming harder and harder because the computer is able to do data science. Be careful. So really a great opportunity to check this out at some point. Here's what it does. You load your data in, you take a CSV, and then Power BI says, would you like to see some quick insights? And here's the quick insights. Outliers, regional activity, where things are on a map, analysis and deeper analysis. You can ask questions just by writing a sentence. What is the split by gender? If you type that in, Power BI will give you the answer. So by using AI, you can spend less time formatting data and get right into answering better and deeper questions. Now, how many of us here have to set up calendar invites? You know, spending time, if you could raise your hand, do you struggle with, you know, setting up meetings and trying to get people on the calendar, meet at the right place at the right time, and you're trying to you're meeting with one person, but there's other people that want to organize the next meeting with you. My goodness, right? And as a small business owner, it's even harder. You're with a client and you're talking maybe about doing general contracting or insurance or law. You're with your client, and at the same time, you're getting WhatsApp messages or other Viber messages. Where are you? When is our next meeting going to be? Okay, let me introduce X.AI. This is an AI system with Amy and Andrew, two helpful personal assistants that are computerized. Basically, what happens is, let's say after a nice meeting like this, you networked with someone, you connected, and in this case, Mary met Greg, and she says, "Hey, Greg, I'd love to meet up with you for coffee sometime. We met at this meeting. Can I come by your office?" And so Greg, dealing with a customer right then, is there and decides, let me involve the AI in this. Hey, Amy, AI, come. Uh, can you help me set up a meeting between Mary and I? The AI takes over. And the AI writes a very nicely worded, good English, writes it up and says, Mary, I looked at Greg's calendar, because AIs can look at your calendar, and said, here are some dates and times. And by the way, here's the location of where we could have the meeting. Mary responds, and the English isn't so great. She says, morning's not so good, so 11 a.m. slots are out, 4 p.m. I can do. But the AI figures that out and says, hi, Mary, thanks for letting me know. I'll send over a calendar invite. And so Greg continued on with his meeting and discussion and so forth. And the AI has gone ahead and created a meeting in one of his free slots on his calendar out there so that he and Mary can catch up. What a time saver. Now, before you look over to your assistants and say, this is AI is going to take over your job, remember what I said at first. We can actually move up the level, the skill, the work of the people that are in our organizations. Instead of having to set up the meeting and the time and the place, which the computer can handle, the administrative assistant, the organizer should be creating a dossier, explaining who you're meeting with, going back over the prior minutes and checking out, hey, these are the key points you need to discuss, helping to make that meeting even more productive. We increase the value of the person who we're working with. We increase the value of the time so that we can get home earlier and spend more time with the dog or the cat or our family. That's what this is about. And at the same time, we upskill our assistant so that he or she is providing even more value to the organization and getting to know more about how they provide value. These are great times, and these are great times for new opportunities. Spend less time setting appointments using AI. My last example is where you can try this out yourselves. And let me show you. So CPOP, they own 11,000 7-Elevens in Thailand. Big organization, lots of inventory, lots of people, of course. And they also have started to employ robots and things in their organization. They have lots of different systems and data. And of course, as a publicly listed company, they also have data on, publicly, right? To show where they are and what have you. How does a manager, come up with pulling together all these things into an Excel and then making a beautiful PowerPoint with lots of explanation for senior management about how they quarterly performance and what's the future look like? That's a lot of work, right? And prior to being in the university, I was at Estee Lauder. I was with you guys, like you, working in business. And I used to ask my teams as we did business intelligence, what's the hardest thing? They said, Keith, getting the data is one of the hardest things for us. Well, good news. The computer can help get some of this data now. This is where, as we go and automate reporting, we can the computer's best capabilities come to light. So this is an example. I can send an email and then it'll respond back. If you send an email, like I'm about to share with you how to do so, you'll get a response back with a comment on how CPL is doing and what the performance report is across multiple spreadsheets and multiple test systems that we have at the National University of Singapore to demonstrate how this works. So we take data from online investing. We take data and pull that in. We take data from customers and inventory and purchasing data and more. Things that you just said that you guys look at as well during the survey that Jerome had as there. And we generate a PowerPoint with sentences. The computer can type sentences now. Isn't that great? Now, what does this mean? It allows us to look more closely at the PowerPoint and provide even more value. The computer only knows so much. It only knows some of the data that's in the system. It doesn't know the context. It doesn't know some of the other discussions that you had. And so this is where human and computer come together. So I've shared with you a number of different ways that AI and data-driven decision-making can be used. Here's an opportunity for you to try it out. You can send mail if you'd like to this Fintech Lab robot at Gmail. I suggest you take a screenshot, or if I can ask one of the organizers, perhaps you'd be so kind as to share this email with the participants so they can try it out. And then have the subject. In the subject, you just need to have, tell me about CPAL. And you'll get a response in about 10 minutes. We're trying to estimate, there's a lot of people here, computer's going to need to do a lot of processing. So after that, it'll take about 10 minutes for you to get this. So go ahead and send an email to this if you'd like to. And again, organizers would be so kind if you could write this out and send this as the subject in the email so everyone can see it in the chat. All right. Let me take this a little bit further. So this is what you would get. If you try this out, you'll get a report. You'll get the analysis here that the computer did. You'll get the conversion rate that the computer calculates. You don't have to calculate this in the spreadsheet and then type it into PowerPoint anymore. Isn't that great? And in addition, you'll get a dashboard like this. It'll generate this dashboard looking at the performance of the robot, how it did, and what type of things it sold, and also a little bit of a story. How do you improve? How do you win? And by the way, I'm okay if you take a screenshot of this. This is the expectation you should have in a dashboard. Where are we today? Are we winning? And how do we win tomorrow? Every dashboard needs to answer these three questions. Where are we today? Are we winning? And how do we win tomorrow? So you can see in green and red, there's opportunities to improve. And how do you win are good thinking, good thoughts that you as an organization put in. And again, this is the feedback loop. You go back and see, did that work? Did our suggestions work? 3 quarters ago, we said we should sell this. Is that working now? What information did we not have that perhaps made it not work? And so you can continuously improve your process. This is a journey. It's not a one thing. It's not, let's get IBM servers in. No, this is a journey you start off with. And I've been talking a lot about people, and it's going to be even more important as well. How do we get there? So have I inspired you, I hope, to get interested? You saw the governments, businesses looking at questions they wanted to answer. I've given you some tools that can help you answer even in your daily life as a busy SME owner or as a person who needs to create a lot of PowerPoint, showing you some tools here. Now, how do we get there? I'm going to take you through a video so that we can set expectations about artificial intelligence and the type of data that you need in order to make good data-driven decisions. It's more than we expect. And as you listen to this video, I'd like for you to think about, do I have this, what data is necessary for the AlphaGo to beat the best Go master in the world? So I'm going to share a new screen here. And what I also like to do is just play a little bit and just make sure everyone is able to hear, so that I get confirmation on that. Please make sure to give me a thumbs up that you can hear when I share this video, okay? Let's go into it.
Game 1 surprised Go Master Yi Sedol. Game 2 left him speechless. And in Game 3, he felt powerless. Sedol came back to win in Game 4, but the final game ended with Google's AlphaGo defeating the Go Master again. A computer had beaten the best Go player in the world 4-1. The weight of this defeat stirred a certain sadness in many people around the world, because unlike chess, Go is a complex game that requires human intuition and creativity, or so it was thought. AlphaGo's system uses deep neural networks, which approximate the web of neurons in the human brain. These networks learn to perform tasks by analyzing large amounts of digital data. The AlphaGo team took it a step farther. Using reinforcement learning, they set up countless matches in which different versions of AlphaGo played each other. So AlphaGo learns from human moves and then it develops its own strategy. It understands how humans play, but it can also look beyond that to play an entirely different level of the game. This may seem frightening, but the reality is that the technologies at the heart of AlphaGo are the future. They're poised to reinvent everything from robotics to scientific research. In the years to come, as we humans work with these machines, our genius will only grow in tandem with our creations. Well, hopefully. So don't view it as human versus machine, but rather human and machine.
Don't view it as human versus machine. View it as human and machine. This is a key aspect of what we're going through in this time of great change. Never before in human history has technology improved, but there have been less jobs. On the contrary, every time we've moved from agriculture to manufacturing, from manufacturing to service, more jobs have been created. They're different jobs, and they interact with technology in different ways. Back in 2017, the World Economic Forum said, look, 35% of workers in 2020 are not going to have the skills to be able to move further in their careers because business would have changed so much. Here we are talking about AlphaGo winning, beating a person in the challenging game of Go. And there was sadness as well. But I submit to you that there's a bit of fake news that these things will take over our jobs. No, instead, we'll work closely together with them, developing and enhancing lives in new ways. But even to get there, we need to know how. So let's take a look at the data that's necessary in order for AlphaGo to have won. So what were the key data elements? You know, can the computer have only seen its own moves? Can the computer just show up and say, okay, this is the situation, let's go? No, there was a lot of things that went into this. First is the computer had to know the rules very well. Then in addition, the strategies that it could use given a situation. It had to practice. Did you hear what it said? It went over millions of different strategies, testing out how things would go each time. Practice. It literally had to practice its job. How much time do we give our staff and our team members to practice? Now, the computer had to know its side of the board. You need to know your side of the board. What are all the possible moves we can make? And what's the cost of every move? Do you think AlphaGo had to know precisely every piece that it owned? Yes, in order to win. Did it have to know the cost of moving and maybe it would lose it? Absolutely. And it had to have a perfect view of the opponent's side of the board. This becomes really interesting. Can you play Go or chess without seeing the other side of the board? Very hard, right? Imagine your opponent could see you, but you couldn't see their pieces. And you were trying to move, and all of a sudden your piece just disappears. Where'd that come from? This is the way we are. A lot of times companies say, let's go put in AI, let's do data. And then I ask them, so yeah, you have your own data, right? Yes, we have a lot of different data. Really? Do you know the cost of every activity you do? Well, no problem. Okay, good. We can start. Let's back up a little bit. Now let's look again. Are you ready to launch this new product? Yes, let's go. We've got the pricing and everything. Okay. Last year, how did your competitor respond to your pricing? What database do you have that stores that pricing? Okay. So the challenge begins. But Amazon looks at the competitor pricing all the time and inventory availability and what the competitors are selling. You have to know the opponents in order to see the risks and opportunities. And then after you have those two things, you can model past results and what ifs. Now, some of you might be saying, wow, this is a really hard hill to climb. But guess what? The companies that have climbed this hill are in the top market cap positions, right? So it's worth it. There's a reason to. Bank of New York, Mellon, 250-year-old bank, lots, 250 good reasons not to change. We worked together on the 2020 strategy and beyond, and said, you know what, artificial intelligence is important, but right now, human intelligence is catching up with how artificial intelligence can be used. And they, at BNY Mellon, they began to do the thing I showed you. Identify the intent of client emails and route them to the right person for faster response. Wouldn't that be great? How many times have you received an email and it's not really for you, or maybe it was the wrong content, or you didn't have the information? This is where artificial intelligence can be used. And even large banks and organizations are starting on these journeys. So where can we fit our team? I've asked you, please tell the CFO, don't let go of people. Here's why. Humans have good skills, and machines and AI have good skills as well. Let's appreciate both. But also they have weaknesses. So humans, we're slow at repetitive tasks, right? And we make mistakes as well, and we get bored as well. But we can think and see the bigger picture. We can listen to a customer service issue. How many of you have tried chatbots and the chatbot didn't really work out? You know, raise your hand if you went to a chatbot and you asked it a question and it was like, what type of answer is this? And the next question you asked was, may I have the customer service number, please? Right? I mean, this is the situation of chatbots. But what we recognize today with Bank of New York Mellon and how things could be was, you know, this chatbot can help the customer service agent look up the customer information, see what type of activities the customer has done over time, and then make suggestions. That's where AI can come in. That's where the excitement can be. Machines are fast at repetitive tasks. They don't make mistake at repetitive work as well. But they can only run the way they're programmed. They're really unflexible, and they don't have feeling, they don't have empathy, they don't care if the customer has a bad day. Steps, how do you get to here? Well, the first is to understand where you are today. So we can categorize ourselves by, are you just looking at standard reports? Are you like Excel jockeys? And I saw that in the survey that a lot of people do Excel. That's great. You know, there's an opportunity here to move into visualization. So you can then seize risks and opportunities and answer these big questions, especially how do we win tomorrow? That's a hard question, especially if you don't have the competitor data, because you have to bring their moves in, or at least you want to see the stores and such. And I'm really proud. There's a great company in the Philippines, in Manila, that I had an opportunity to work with. And one of the most data-driven people in that organization had the competitors' data and was winning, you know, in a tough category of business. She was driving toward her team saying, we've got to seize risks and opportunities. Amazing. Finally, what's the best way to win? This is an opportunity where the machine begins to work with you together in order to identify opportunities that maybe even we might not see. And so here's another chart that you can take a quick screenshot of. Where are you today? Your situation, your reporting. Are you in reporting? Then the help you need, I would suggest, is upgrade your strategic business questions. Get your senior management behind you as well. Establish a culture of data-driven decision-making. The second is, if you are doing analytics, some of you said there's data scientists, some have Power BI already, establish the SWOT framework, which is start with a business question, wrangle your data, analyze it, and then most importantly, take action. Know, decide, act, take action, action. The third is, if you already are seizing the risks and opportunities, then understand how do you collect more data, perhaps from the external environment, from the telephone companies, from the government, from others, and collaborate together and see how you can answer forward-looking questions. How can we win? And then finally, let's say that you are an awesome organization. You're really the next Amazon here, and you're already at level 3. Then it's time for level 4, where you're automating. You're already at automation and prediction. And now it's time to start to reinforce the machine, make the machine even smarter. Can you see that number 4 and AI and machine learning is a little bit further away? We don't really recommend you start there, because machine learning has to have very accurate data, You see that first through good data visualization. And that's steps 1 through 3. This is what I recommend as a roadmap for achieving value. Asking good questions first. But like I started off with some of the monetary value of these things and even saving lives in terms of students, you want to look at the monetizing of the answers first. If I answer this question, how will it improve the business or the government or the people or the students? And then in the center is acquire the data, visualize the opportunities, and then get ready to take the action that's necessary. And listen, one last thing, track what's happened. Make sure you really take the time to understand the value of what you brought to the business. Talk with the business teams. Business and IT should be sitting together. Business and business intelligence, analytics should be together, talking and understanding. Hey, here's my report. How did you use it? Oh, I used it to save this product launch. Oh, how much was that worth? And tack that down. Because when you do, you'll get more and more benefit and more activity behind you. At the Fintech Lab, I wanted to at least say you're not alone in this. We have a fintech ecosystem. We're here to work with governments, with businesses, with organizations in order to help everyone understand what's possible and to help the next day be even better than it is today. So we have a new book coming out on Power BI. Stay tuned. We have a course on the fundamentals of Power BI and so forth that can really help up your game here. We do Fintech SG, which we launched this year because of COVID-19. And our students were calling up and saying, we can't find jobs, we don't know what to do. But businesses were calling me up and saying, we can't find people, no one knows Fintech, no one knows full stack development. And so we've been teaching Fintech SG, which has been in the news and other things as well. This is just an exciting program. And in our first batch that graduated a few weeks ago, they all got jobs, which was fantastic in COVID-19. And finally, we also teach algo trading. So I hope you've gotten a chance to see what data-driven decision-making is, how you can use it, what it's all about, and then how you can get there. There's much more. This is only just the tip of the iceberg or the first couple steps on a longer journey. But I do hope that we will be able to keep in touch, to be able to work together in the whole ecosystem, because the borders and the boundaries across countries have come down. I can use Grab here in Singapore and in the Philippines very easily. But at the same time, that means that the traditional taxi companies are getting impacted, perhaps even falling off the list. We have an opportunity today to work together, to take what I've shared with you and put it into practice. So if we could share one more time, those 3 key words, know, decide, act. Can I ask everyone, all the panelists here, can you come off mute? Can you join me in saying again, know, decide, act at the count of 3? Everyone, if you could come off mute, thank you so much. Let's go ahead. A few of you are coming off. Great, great, great. Already on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
No.
Decide.
Fantastic. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me share today. Keep in touch and looking forward to the Q&A session. Over to you, Jerome.
Thank you so much, Professor Keith Carter. That was an insightful presentation. Good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jerome Yanson. I'll be moderating the plenary session of this webinar. Professor, at this point, let's talk about the poll results, and we would like to get your insights, your comments, or your reactions on the matter. Can we show the result of the first poll question, please? Okay. So early on, we asked our participants what data are the most frequently used by your company. As you can see on your screen, 53% said they use employee or HR data. 47% they use payroll. 44% customer data. 43% sales and revenue. 42% operating production costs. 36% inventory. 26% profits and 16% they are using other data. Professor, you notice that the answers are really close together in percentage. What can you say about this?
Well, first of all, I'm really, really glad that the HR and employee data came out top. That's fantastic because after all, what do we do this for? We are all here, many have, in some way, shape, or form with family and friends. We have responsibilities to take care of. And so people are at the heart of everything that we do. It's interesting to see that sales, customer, and operations and payroll and HR data connect together. Sales, operations, and customer data are right next to each other. That's really good. It also shows the focus of businesses too, that they really are looking at how do we get the revenue in and so forth. That's essential. I mean, it makes sense. I think it's a good sign, a healthy sign for this. I think
Right,
from
thank you,
the,
Professor. The next poll
go
result is
ahead.
actually related to the first one. So can we show the next result? So we asked our participants, where do you get the data often used by your company? 55% said that they uh, get it from financial statements, 43% from sales data, 34% from government statistics, and 34% are using or getting from other sources. We don't know their sources, so you might want to share with us in the chat box. And 29% said that they get it from private, industry, and market surveys. What is your comment on this, Professor?
I like how high the other sources are. I'd be curious to see what some people say in the chat. Absolutely. And I think it makes sense. These are right in order of what we would expect in terms of business and a crowd this size. So makes a lot of sense. I think it's interesting that the private and industry data, there's an opportunity to increase the amount that's used here to get a more well-rounded picture of what's going on.
Yeah, Professor, you talk about actionable intelligence and how it can deliver results fast and make better outcomes for organizations. But what are the constraints in building a data-driven culture among enterprises, and how do we overcome such constraints and challenges?
So the biggest part is inspiring people to think differently. How do you inspire a person who has run their business by their gut for decades and successfully, by the way? They've anticipated how the market would move. They, sold the right things. They were profitable, and they didn't have a lot of data because 10, 20, 30 years ago, it was even harder to get data. And now, how do you move folks like this to, hey, let's look at what's happening on the ground. Let's really get the nitty gritty. Let's survey our customer and go a bit deeper into what they say and what they do, and let's do it online. I think those are challenging cultural aspects. The second cultural aspect is, how do you have a red, something that looks bad, and yet have people collaborate together on it as opposed to trying to kill the person? I think that's the second part. So if we can see that there's a red indicator on the dashboard and be very open and honest, hey, listen, we missed the target. And then have a culture of, hey, how do we all get around the table together and support each other to make it next time? I think that second cultural aspect is just as important.
Thank you, Professor. Let's go to the next poll result. Can we show the third poll result? Okay. We asked, what are these data used for? Majority of the participants, 77% said that they use it for operational improvement. 38% said they use it for product development and market study. 44% for sales and marketing, 28% for recruitment, and 31% said they use other data. Professor, what is your reaction on the result of this poll question?
This is interesting. And it's great to see that operations is top of mind. It may also indicate that operations cares the most about data. So, and it shows, right? When you think about time studies, it's all about data. Engineers are all about data. So it kind of makes sense that if there's a group of people in the room thinking about how they use data, likely it's going to be people that are looking at the operations first. That said, sales and marketing, has a huge opportunity to use data in a better way to anticipate their customers' needs. And if they don't, then Amazon and the Grab will come and take over. So we would hope that if we have this a year from now, that sales and marketing are all on top of data as well.
Right. So just a follow-up question, in what industries or businesses do you think actionable intelligence or data analytics will thrive, Professor?
Every industry, there's not one that would not. If you go from even, of course, banking says that how do they sell loans? They have a picture of a house, they have a picture of a car. So your life cycle is there, and banks really need to have a life cycle management data on their customers to anticipate what messaging they should be sharing. Should they be sharing about how you can save for school, or sharing about how you should save for retirement, and in what band and what life cycle, etc. Insurance companies, critical they use data the right way, not to collect premiums, but at the moment of truth, when the tragedy has occurred, are they ready to support the family? And not only to give the money, but also to help bring the vendors for funeral or health or other things that may have happened. Insurance companies can do a lot better job with data to anticipate their customers' needs. Every industry can have data and thrive. And you'll see that Airbnb took over with data for offering places to stay. I mean, you can hardly think of one where data is not critical.
Professor, let's go to the next poll result. So can we show the result of the fourth question, please? Okay, so we asked our participants, what is the stage of your data decision making? An overwhelming majority of 78% said that they are in the stage of reporting and using Excel based on business performance data. 13% said they are in the stage of using dashboards, probably for market forecasting or etc. 7% they are in the prediction of best worst case stage, and a small percentage, 2%, are in the AI stage, artificial intelligence, to navigate and achieve optimal business results. We want to know your insights on this, Professor.
Well, I want an insight first. Those 7 people, please contact me. I'd love to invest in your business. You're the future. Looking forward to working with you. For the ones that are reporting and on Excel, this is understandable. This is where a lot of us are today. And this is fantastic that everyone's kind of straightforward and honest about this. And I hope that today you learned a couple key things to take away and you can use and take it further in your organization. This is expected. In other words, I think everyone in the room should take away, I'm not alone. I'm also, struggling, trying to get data, trying to convert it to PowerPoint, things like that. And there's an opportunity here for you to all work together toward a bright future.
Right.
Don't give up.
Yes. Your discussion on artificial intelligence was really interesting. Automation, big data, data science, these are really all revolutionary. But what do you think are the opportunities and the threats of artificial intelligence in the labor market, particularly in employment, Professor?
I think the key threat is overpromising and under-delivering. So AI can run your business. Oh, if you just do this, that'll happen. I hope you've also seen during my presentation today how challenging it can be to really have AI work for you. You have to have really good data. And then in addition to good data, you have to have people working with you that are ready to dive deep, try things out and more. And you have to have senior sponsorship to go and get all the data in the company. A lot of times people don't share data. So I think that's one of the other key issues, right? You can say, I've got a big question in my company, but some organizations will say, listen, I don't want to share my data with you. Why should I? And so those type of things can really stop these activities in their track, Jerome.
Thank you, Professor. Let's go to the last poll question. Can we show the result, please? The question was, how mature are your people in terms of data science or data analytics? 68% said that they have really good Excel experts.
Great.
15% said their senior management they have data science, a senior management who know data science. 13% said they have data science team, but they don't know what they do. And 4% said they have data science and they have earned or saved millions. Your comment on this, Professor?
I think that it's really good to have Excel experts in your company, and we have to always be reminded, especially in senior management, that inside of your own organization tends to have talent that you can engage and go and do great things with. Start with your own organization first. Don't hire someone from the outside to go and do this, what we've talked about today in actionable intelligence first. Start inside, identify your talent, and maybe have, get the inspiration from processes and ways you can go ahead and do this as well. And start small. Take a challenging business question, but start small. Just focus on one and try to answer that with the Excel experts, but also give them the tool. Give them Power BI or Tableau or something. Give them a little bit meatier tool and let them have the time to go for training and let them have the business people's time to come and help answer the question and connect the answer with the business value. Because if you can connect the connection there, you'll grow the organization. I also like that some people said they have a data science team and they've saved millions and they can prove it. That's really heartwarming. That's fantastic. We need more organizations that can say this. And again, I hope a year from now, were this to be done again, so if you did this poll question again of your members, Jerome, that they would come around and say, hey, there's more of us that are doing this, really showing how analytics drives business results.
Yeah. You mentioned about data science, data analytics. How do you see its progress or its relevance nowadays that businesses are trying to embrace the new normal or the better normal?
I see that businesses in the new normal of COVID-19, you mean, Jerome?
Yes, yeah, right. You're right.
They were forced to go online, right? They had to start to do their business on with all that has happened. The people were forced off the streets. Companies couldn't have people come to them. Some sectors were hit harder than others because they really needed that physical interaction with the customer, like food and tourism. But yet, other companies began to sit down and thought, okay, how do I establish this? Maybe virtual tourism. Maybe how do I get my food to people? Oh, Grab is here. Let's try that. I think there's different ways that we approach, disaster. Some sit back and, shake their head and hope for, to return back to the way things were. But others look forward and say, hey, this is an opportunity now. Let's try to seize this and, go after it, change our business model. And that's what I see some of the best companies do.
Right, right. Professor, I would love to talk to you more, but I noticed that there are a lot of questions and comments in our chat box and probably in our Facebook Live comments. So we would like to request our colleague Jerome here to get into the discussion so that he can read the questions for you. So Jerome, what are your questions to Professor Keith?
First of all, sir, Professor Keith would like to congratulate you because a lot of our participants have just given you a doctorate degree. They are calling you doctor, sir. One of our friends asked, sir, would you mind sharing with us a case where a government applied actionable intelligence to address an issue?
So, for example, how far back can I go, Jerome? The reason I named the book Actionable Intelligence was because in the 1940s, there was use of this terminology and the importance of data. The Japanese were coming to attack the Pacific Fleet, and there were code breakers trying to break what was being, talked about by the Japanese, and they hadn't figured it out yet. And they were going to attack a particular island. It just so happened that the Japanese were building, are having some trouble with water, and they were building a water plant on one place. And that small break helped the Americans send a note back to the right people who were in the chain of command to say, okay, we've got to move our fleet away from this because otherwise they'll wipe out everything. And so a much smaller fleet went and went and faced off against the Japanese, lost still, but it wasn't a total loss. And so that right information at the right time in the right person's hands in order to improve outcomes, that was a tremendous improvement in outcome. In terms of so that was the government side. More recently, here in Singapore, I hate to use Singapore, but looking at where do we need to do our supply chain. So right as COVID-19 hit, you started to see Chan Chun Sing, one of the members of parliament, set up supply chain agreements with other countries because he had the data about what is it that we need as important resources and stock in our warehouses just in case everything really gets shut down. And in our supply chain community here, we were like, wow, that was great, really fast response by the government to pick that up and go and do that. Lastly, at Estee Lauder, and that reminded me of something we had done at Estee Lauder. I can't believe that it's almost 10 years ago now. So 2011, back in 2009, I had started a project of actionable intelligence at Estee. We said, let's have end-to-end visibility. So there's someone here who just asked about logistics too. None of this is new, right? So 2003, MIT said companies need to have end-to-end visibility about their business. They should see this whole supply chain, your customers, you, and your suppliers, and maybe a supplier behind that. So we started off on a journey to map that out at Estee Lauder. And I looked at what's our bill of material. Those of you in manufacturing will know this. So bill of material is how you make something. And so we took 40,000 items, exploded all the bills of material, looked at where all the supply came from, and had a system that would instantly tell us where critical supply was. In 2011, September 11th, Japan, the crisis there, the tsunami, the earthquake, everything happened. And Japan makes really high quality cosmetic materials. And so we were like, and they're a huge market, right? Number 2 in Asia. So wow, what's going to happen to our sales and what's going to happen to our supply? In the same day, we were able of the crisis, we got the calls in the morning and we woke up, we went to the chief operating officer and said, look, here's 10,000 bills of material that are impacted because we might not have supply from Japan anymore. What are we going to do? So manufacturing was able to prioritize the profitable items first. And we went to manufacture those with the supply that was left. We created a forecast. Then we also showed, hey, look at the sales impact. This is what's going to happen because Japan's a huge market. This is what we need to report back to Wall Street. We did that on the same day as the Japan crisis. The only way that could happen, though, is that you ask these questions earlier on. So, you don't start asking the questions when the crisis happens. You start asking before, and then when the crisis does occur, you're ready. So from the logistics questions and so forth, I want to encourage you, go after the data, work with your suppliers, get their data. What's your capacity? When's the real delivery date? Start to model that stuff out, and then analyze your customers. What do they look like? When do they need things? Where do they need things? What price do they need it at? What's my competitor look? Pull that together. Make a good team of business and IT people and those Excel people that you all have in your organizations. The Excel person is really critical, and have them to work together to answer questions today and then go out and do it. So those are the 3 examples, Jerome, to your short question, but give you a lot of answer.
There is a very interesting question here related to your response because you're talking about Japan and Singapore, sir. But another question here, sir, is that what policy that the government should prioritize, implement, and institutionalize, especially in a third world country like the Philippines, to bridge the gap of digital divide in the society?
One word, education. Just one word. Make sure to pivot, help people pivot to these new roles by upskilling them. And there's plenty of good studies at the World Economic Forum about that. The Asian Development Bank, we did a talk last week with ADB, and they shared about how if you upskill, if an economy upskills their people in a developing nation, Indonesia, Thailand, etc., that you'll actually increase and improve the job prospects, you improve the comfort of the jobs, and you deliver up to 34% improvement in the economy as well. And I said 34%, and the lady who was representing that from Asian Development Bank was like, yes, that's right. So tremendous opportunity, not double-digit growth, but significant double-digit GDP growth is possible if we really go back to the basics of education and make sure that everyone is getting to understand what this is about and enabled, put it into their hand, get the capability there, push forward. But I want to say one more thing. A lot of people are dropping off because of internet connection as well. So critical, right? This is the knowledge economy. We've got to have data. I'm talking to you and all this stuff is getting converted to data and sent to you. That data infrastructure is also priority number 2. I mean, education is one, make sure everyone's aware and how to do things, and you have really good people working the telcos, everything. And priority 2, strong infrastructure.
Okay, sir. Here's a related question, sir, because you said a while ago that education is really the key to strengthen the artificial intelligence and data science culture in a society. Here's a question from Mel Greg. How can the education sector and state universities and colleges in the Philippines benefit from using AI with very limited fund allocation?
What was the last words? I heard colleges, how they can use AI or data-driven decision-making with limited what?
Fund allocation, sir.
Oh,
Budget.
fund allocation. Like they don't have a lot of money to do this.
Yes.
So they do report. So first of all, like the learning management system, that having the data there is helpful. The other aspect is, of course, if we talk about education, educating the teachers about this is so critical as well. And we are doing that as we speak. We educate a group of program managers and teachers and so forth here in a so-called developed nation. Teachers need to continuously learn too. So that's the first thing. Go online. There's great courses online. There's great opportunities for us to share and see what's being done by other schools and universities. I would also say model what some of the other schools and universities have done. Don't start, and don't be alone. I called McGill University when I got to NUS, and we started to look at student success here. We wanted to do a longitudinal study. We wanted to see how professors interacted. So I called McGill University because some professors there had done something. I said, look, what did you do? How did you follow this? And they are more than happy to share. If you're an educator, reach out. Just let's talk. We can share ideas. There's an education technology conference coming up in November. And as educators, you can come to that and hear about how technology can be used and what type of technologies there are. One other thing, Power BI for yourself is free. The thing I showed you earlier, that's free, doesn't cost any money. So you can try this out very quickly. Zapier, the automation tool that I showed you, that some of you went and did the email and maybe by now I've gotten the PowerPoint back. That actually starts off free. So many technology and data that you can access today is free. So at least you can model, see what the risks are and opportunities are. And then when you see the benefit, then you can start to pay for it. But you don't have to start off with money. You just have to start off with time, Jerome.
Right, Professor, it's really good to hear that straight from the horse's mouth since you are a professor. But I've got a very good question here from my boss, from Executive Director Chris, and she asks, based on your experience and for the benefit of our small entrepreneurs, I know there are a lot of business owners who are watching right now. May we know your insights on what are the basic components of the simplest business IT ecosystem where businesses could start so they would be encouraged to be data and AI driven? Is there available framework that MSMEs could benchmark?
Absolutely. We went to buy a table recently because COVID-19, you have to work at home all the time. So, and when we were there, here's a small business. They sell tables. They import them from China and they sell them, right? Well, everything's made in China. So what had happened is my wife had placed the order and the company was online. So we didn't have to go to the store to buy something. We went online. We placed the e-commerce order, but we went to the store and the agent was very easily able to pull up our order because then as we looked at the tables, we wanted to adjust it. And so they gave us higher customer service because they weren't the person that took the order, but they could easily have access to the order, how much we paid. They knew how much they could negotiate because they knew the cost of the table. It's about, for SMEs, many times the owner keeps everything to themselves, the Excel file, the order book, the customer information. And listen, it makes sense. Sometimes, your best salesperson runs away with all your customer information and tries to steal them. I get it. It's important to try to protect your information. But there comes a time when you can share your data, when you can build a culture of loyalty in your organization, where everyone is caring about things and working together. And that's where a very simple system like Shopify, go online in e-commerce and use Shopify. And it gives you reports, it gives you data, it gives you everything you might need to run your business. And more importantly, you're now meeting your customer at their time of need. Go and do Google AdWords. Google AdWords is great. It starts off for free. They give you a credit, right? Again, small business. The third is using data like from accepting digital payments from Grab or from QR codes or whatever system you have there for digital payments allows you then to do one more thing. Sit down and look at the data together with your salesperson, with your customer, with your person who does procurement, with your finance person, and look really honestly at the data and say, who's my customer today? And how do we meet them tomorrow? It's not expensive, but it's about habit in the first instance.
Thank you, Professor. Well, there are really a lot of questions coming in. So if you have some more questions, please type your questions in our Q&A box. So I think I've got here a question about data security, Professor. How about data security in artificial intelligence? We are in a digitalized world, and how can we be sure of our data security? That's a question from one of our participants.
You have to assume that you have already been hacked. Let me say very clearly. And you probably don't know. So many movie directors and stuff, when they're writing a script, they never connect to the internet, because if you connect anything, you have antivirus, whatever other thing, every day there's a new way to break into a phone or a computer, etc. And it's not just, hackers and teenagers, it's also governments that try to come in and break into things. So data security, your most sensitive data, if you have the Coca-Cola formula, for example, you never put it on a computer. By the way, Coca-Cola never did. So that's number one. Know that you've already been hacked. But number two is put in the culture of security. Talk with your colleagues. Listen, we need to make sure as we meet the customer on his journey that we provide you with information so that you can satisfy and sell. But at the same time, we don't want you to, by accident, make it fall into the wrong hands. And I'll give you an example of bad data security. I was consulting with a bank, and they were very secure. They said, no one can take the customer's files out of the branch. But the customer journey for the relationship manager was meeting for drinks, having a chat, and the relationship manager needed the customer file to know, how much they had and what their deposits were and maybe what type of loans they could take on. So what would happen? The relationship manager would take the paper file out with them out and borrow it, right? This is bad data security. A policy that goes against the sales cycle. And that's even, I haven't talked about computers. So many companies are like this. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. But then how do I sell? So we need to really make sure to walk through the customer journey. And this is where small businesses can be really good. Take how your salesperson sells, what data do they need, and make sure that you build a culture of protection around that, but that they then have the information so they don't have to email it to themselves. Make sure your customer information is here because that's where your salesperson is going to need it. But make sure it's here with some tool that provides some protection around it as well. I know you're going to say, Keith, there's data protection laws and so forth and so on. These are critical too. You have to follow them. But you also need to delight your customer. Your customer has already told all the dirty secrets on Viber and WhatsApp for free to people that they don't know. That's in some intern in San Francisco, California is looking at everything that's being typed. Ridiculous how concerned we are about, oh, the phone number, the address. These are not things that are really sensitive. It's all the things that we provide here on Facebook and Instagram, etc., our beach pictures and more, right? For the whole world to see. So I share this with you because privacy and data is a social contract. What your customer expects is that you don't reveal the information in a way that hurts them. That's all. That's what the social contract means. That's why we feel so comfortable putting so much private things on Facebook, but we feel very uncomfortable going to the bank and sharing those same information with the bank. Well, why is that? Facebook did nothing for us, but the bank is going to give us a loan. It's because of the social contract. So we as SMEs, you notice I'm taking this a little bit lower than what your question was, but we as SMEs need to set the expectation with our customers. We will protect your privacy, but we want to serve you as best as possible. And this is the way we will work within our company too. Let us know you so that we can help you and serve you best. Data security is really hard. Do the right things though. Go to Google, for example, check your website out, go use Firefox. They have a nice tool there that you can put your website into Firefox and it'll automatically check, how insecure it is. Make sure to install paid software for antivirus, not free antivirus software, please. Just basic things to do the right things well.
Thank you, Professor. Jerome, do you have some more questions? Do you see some questions
Yes.
from...
Professor Kit, when we think of data science, there are two things that comes to our mind: statistics and computer science. But if you were to hire a project manager, because a lot of our participants here are human resource managers and practitioners, which do you think is more important, knowledge and skills on statistics or on computer science?
Neither. I think that knowing the business is the first most important thing a data scientist needs to have. And then knowing who in the business has the data and what's the most important questions that need to be answered is the next combined question that they need to have. Then after that, they can begin to apply data visualization or data science to the questions. But today there's a couple of interesting tools, right? So I introduced Power BI. If you have never used it before, start there and you can become a data scientist quite quickly, letting the tool run that. there's also something called Rapid Miner. Rapid Miner is a a data tool that does machine learning. It uses deep neural networks. It allows you to do decision trees and extreme gradient boosted trees. But you don't have to know how to program at all. You just drag your data, you drag in the deep learning model, and then you click run, and it tells you what happened. I mean, now where the data science parts comes in is that you have to interpret the results. But man, what a time saving. You don't have to program Python and all the things. So yeah, you can start off with, I believe, a data science team needs a really good business knowledge, know the strategic business question, know where the data is, and then know all these new tools in 2020 that can help do data science really fast. And then when it gets interesting, those are good for prototyping, right? But when you want to make it precise and really good and make it into production, then you hire data scientists and say, look, this is what we want to do. And you've got it.
Okay, sure. Um, Here's another question, sir. What are the common misconceptions of people, government, and businesses about data analytics and artificial intelligence that you want to debunk?
What are repeat that question again.
Common misconceptions.
Ah, about data science and AI?
Yes, sir.
This is a big question. The most common is that AI is like a diet pill and it'll make your business better really fast. Um, the next most common is that AI is hard to use. I don't think it is. And the third is that we don't embed the machine learning tools into our business processes like we should. Let me explain. All too often, I go to a computer store or to buy a TV, and the salesperson is sitting there. The salesperson. He's sitting, he's waiting, he has nothing to do, or he's looking at his phone. And what is he doing on his phone? Instagram, Facebook, Viber, etc. Right? WhatsApp. And I go up and say, can you explain to me the pixels, the da da da, the detail of this TV? Because I'm a technology person. And the person's like, they go and they look at some paperwork and, well, it says here, and they don't know their product. As a small business owner, everyone in your organization has one of these devices. So number one, if you have a delivery person, they should be using the phone and you should install on it like Google Maps archive or some of the logistics systems that can go on and send you back, where's your driver? And at the same time, that driver using the system to go and find the appropriate route in the appropriate place. And by the way, you can work with Google. It costs cents, really cents, less than, pays small amounts of money in order to put in a system that says, I need to deliver here, here, and here. And Google gives you an optimal routing at that time. The second thing is that if you have salespeople, they should always be on this device, always. Why? Looking at your competitors, looking at the product as well. Because if, let's say they see a picture of something, let's say they see a wallet and they're not sure what it is and who sells it, they can literally take a picture with their device and Google will search what that is and tell you the product and where. But we don't teach our salespeople to use the big data device, the AI device right in their hands to do competitive intelligence. So, I think that we have a great opportunity. It is a matter of changing our culture and the way we use this device today at all levels of the organization. The last thing is that your customer wants 24/7 service now. No customer wants to wait because that's the way we've been taught, right? You can order a plane ticket anytime, so I should be order pizza anytime. So as a small business owner, you need to figure out how are your business going to run 24/7, because the only reason your customer is with you today is that they haven't found something cheaper and faster yet. As soon as they do, goodbye. It's not, oh, my family, your father used to work, I've been here forever. No. The next generation is like, I want faster, cheaper, better. Let's go.
Sir Jerome, do you have some more questions for Professor Keith?
Yes, Jerome. I'm trying to browse the Q&A chat box, and I see questions about government policies. What can the government do? So, Professor, my question is, what is the role of the government in advancing artificial intelligence or actionable intelligence, especially during these times when we are reeling from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, this is a challenge, right? That we don't know um, what's ahead. Governments around the world are wondering what they ought to do, scratching their head, worried about how people are going to make the next meal. So I can't, you can't give your government enough support right now to help them and come alongside and give them suggestions and help them take action. I think that the public servants aspect is critical in terms of knowing the data too. What are some policies that need to be put in place? I mean, we could go, this is a big discussion, Jerome, but key things, I've talked about education, but second is looking at and requiring people in the government itself to share data more freely. This can be a challenge across departments, to be honest with you. The third is in terms of supporting data usage. The data privacy protection can be like a knee-jerk reaction. And, there's be careful copying other countries and other economies' data protections. They have different reasons for why they protect data, and their reasons may be completely different than yours. Um, Germany doesn't, for example, has no social media tools. You can't think of a German social media tool or cloud provider that's popular. So of course they want to restrict their citizens' data, and they pass very strong data laws to prevent other countries and companies from accessing that data. Whereas in the US and Singapore, the data laws are a lot less because the idea is that data means a lot and data can be used to support people. The last thing I'd say is that the government should be vocal about guiding people on what they can do. So putting money where the mouth is in terms of, hey, SMEs, I want you to survive this crisis, but why don't you use this productivity tool and here's some money to help you. Hey, SMEs, I want you to get training on being data driven or going and doing SEO marketing with Google AdWords. Here's some government money to help you do that. And you'll lift everybody by allowing people to try it as well. And even maybe having workshops and more things like this so more people can understand what's possible and go back and try it out. Partnering with vendors too, like Microsoft or Tableau and so forth. I hate to say this, but I don't mean to promote them, but they have some good systems. But also be careful, right? They're in it to sell their system. Make sure you're going into what is it that the SME and their customers really need, and it's never the system. It's the answer to the key question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor. We are listening and we hear it loud and clear from you. Okay, Jerome, do you have some more questions to Professor Kit?
Last question, sir. Right data handled by the right people to make actionable intelligence. This is the gist of your presentation. But where do businesses usually go wrong when working with data?
Because I like that, right data, right person at the right time. Businesses sometimes go wrong where they miss, I've got to be really on time with this. I need to look over, I need to understand the customer. I need to ask them questions, and that can be missed. So those are where today we said no, decide, act. I hope that many of the participants here, if you're in Excel land, that you'll run out of this and go to Power BI and try it out today. It's free. Check it out. I hope you'll run out of here and look at some courses to take on actionable intelligence or data or algo trading or whatever else. These are good use of your time, and you come back in, deliver great things to your customers, most of all, but also to your employees. And remember, I also said, don't make this mistake too early either. The bigger companies that feel like, oh, I should let people go and so forth. Instead, let's see how we can upskill people so they become even more valuable and communicate to them. We've got to go to automation, but someone has to teach the machine. Can that be you? Let them have that new role that they can take on.
I guess that's all for our question and answer portion. For those who want to tap Professor Keith's expertise, you may email him directly and know more about actionable intelligence, right, Professor Keith?
That's right.
Okay. Professor Keith, would you like to promote your upcoming books or webinars?
Well, I think not in too much. Just thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure to be able to talk with you today. I had a lot of fun sharing with you, and the questions are great. Keep them coming. Keep asking questions, and then let me know how things. The best reward for me would be, hey, what did you use from today? I love when people take action with what I share. That's what I'm a teacher. That's what we love to see. So best wishes. God bless all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor. But before we end, any your message or final words to business owners or enterprises that are entrepreneurs that are planning to jumpstart their artificial intelligence or actionable intelligence projects?
Try hard and try fast and succeed. Go out there and win.
On that note, thank you very much, Professor Keith Carter, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. It was truly a privilege to have you in this webinar. And of course, we welcome you to the Philippines, at least virtually, and we hope to see you here someday in Manila. Okay, so we will be posting the link to Professor Keith's book in the chat box and also his LinkedIn profile, so that you can directly connect or communicate with Professor Keith. Before we end, our NWPC and Wage Board officials to cameras for a photo opportunity. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right. Thank you very much. And with that, we end our session. And on behalf of the National Wages and Productivity Boards, I would like to thank you for joining us this morning. Join us again next week, October 15, for another webinar on business reconfiguration, on October 22 on employee engagement, on November 5, automation, leading practices transitioning to the new normal. For more information, log into our website, www.nwpc.dole.gov.ph, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow our Twitter account. Before you leave, please fill out the evaluation forms to let us know how we can improve more our future webinars through your feedbacks. On behalf of my co-moderator, Jerome Lucas, my name is Jerome Janson, saying thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and see you again next week.
Bye-bye, Jess.
Thank you, Professor Keith.
Thank you, Professor Keith.
Real pleasure.
Thank you.
Real pleasure.
Thank you, Professor Keith.
Thank you too. Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We'll get in touch with you again for another engagement. It was truly a very exciting session with you today.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I got to hear a lot and learn a lot too with the poll questions and everything that people shared as well. Thank you for letting me be part of this.
It was very interesting, Professor Keith. Sorry I wasn't able to join your rehearsal yesterday. I was on leave. I really missed that, but really, thank you very much. And I'm still
Professor,
reading
actually,
your
there are
book.
questions here from participants. How can they study at NUS? But I just did not ask
Oh,
the question.
yeah. Do you have
That's
online
personal
classes?
question.
Do you have online classes, Professor Keith?
Absolutely, everything is online. Come join our
Oh,
program
yeah, that's
as
great.
well. I think we can certainly share a link or something as well to our training. We have a fundamentals of Power BI coming up, and we have a whole professional certificate actually on business intelligence and data. So we could certainly, and I teach in that as well as one of my colleagues that helped make the automation piece that you saw today as well. So you'd be welcome to join us, even from afar, because everything is on Zoom.
Thank you, Professor. Bye.
Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Professor.
you,
I
sir.
had fun
See you in Manila, sir.
talking to you.
I liked your questions, Jerome and Jerome. And you kept your
Those
questions.
were surprise questions, right? You did not know that.
Even the poll for Alibaba, that was great.
Oh yeah.
It really was. And even the chant. How did we go, Professor Keith? It wasn't, people were not chanting all at the same time, right?
It was great, you know, it's fun.
Even with a count of three, I was laughing hard because even as you counted, people were not, maybe it's because the internet connection is intermittent in some areas, probably, so there's kind of some lag. But even
Yeah.
for the second time, I was aiming for a perfect chant, but still, it was so funny, but it worked. I think it worked. I think that's what you get if you're having a seminar via the Zoom. I'm sure it's better doing it physically, right, Professor Keith?
Yes, it is, of course. Yeah, you can see everyone, and you know the interaction is a lot more. But it was nice seeing Jerome and Jerome's faces. You know, that gave me a hint as how things are.
I'm sorry, but only their cameras are enabled. Our cameras are not. Sorry.
Oh, I see. Oh
Yeah.
no.
Much as we would like to have asked our questions ourselves, our cameras, that's the rule of the webinar series. Only the moderators and the speakers. Our cameras are enabled. Our cameras are not enabled. So it was truly a pleasure and a privilege having you, Professor Keith. When we started inviting you, I was really I wasn't optimistic that you would say yes because I know you're very busy. And so we were so thrilled when finally you replied favorably to our invitation. And thank you. I hope this will not be the last time, Professor Keith.
Well, I agree. I agree.
I haven't, I haven't seen this much questions in the chat box as in your presentation, right, Jerome's?
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Because I've been moderating 2 sessions and sometimes I'm